Selling at markets and conventions is reaching an all-time popularity right now, and if you're looking to get your foot in the door to enter this wonderful world of selling your artwork to the masses, then look no further, because today I am going to bestow upon you some of the major tips I have for starting out selling your artwork at these types of events. I started selling my art just over a year ago now, so a lot of the tips and advice I have learned is still very fresh in my mind, and both a lot of people in real life and online have been asking me how I managed to get started, so hopefully, some of the tips I share with you today will help you get started on your journey as a convention artist. Just a disclaimer though, a lot of these tips are going to vary based on your own personal situation and how much you are able to invest into this. And I won't be going over some of the more nuanced business aspects of this, since honestly my method half the time is doing whatever and seeing what sticks. I'm absolutely not an expert on any of this, and I encourage you to explore some other resources as well. I also want to mention that this video is specifically for visual artists, people who are making things like art prints, stickers, keychains, as opposed to things like crocheted items or just physical sort of items. I have never done any of those things, and I have absolutely no idea about it in terms of selling those types of things at events, so this video might not be very helpful, but I am sure that there are many videos out there along the same lines as this one. This video will be separated into 4 different sections, so if there's a specific part that you want to skip to, then you are free to do that, and I will have some bonus tips at the end, so stick around because some of them might be pretty helpful. Okay, so enough rambling, let's get started with part 1. So I would say the very first step that you need to follow is figuring out what you want to sell, which could be a theme of what you want to sell. If you want to sell original work, that's a great starting point. If you want to sell fan content, like fan art, fan merch, whatever, that is also a good starting point. And then that kind of extends into what sorts of products you want to carry. For example, I sell mainly art prints. I do mini prints, large prints, and I also do a lot of stickers. And also keychains, which is probably a personal favorite of mine. I love, love, love making keychains. I think stickers were the very first thing that I started selling when I was starting out. Another big tip I have for this part is just to start small. You don't need to have a huge range of products when you're just starting out, especially because you don't know if this is something that you're going to want to stick with, and you also don't know what is going to sell well. And that's kind of the biggest part with all of this is you never ever really know what's going to sell well. So investing a lot into a bunch of different products when you have no idea how they're going to perform is kind of risky. So another way to figure out what you want to sell product-wise is just kind of thinking about what you would buy at a market. So personally, like I said, I love keychains. I love collecting them, I love buying them, and I also just love art prints, so that was kind of the main direction that I knew I wanted to aim towards. Because also, the types of products that you sell is going to impact your creation process too. So if you really hate having to design little kind of designs like stickers and keychains, then maybe you don't want to sell those, or if you still do want to sell them, then you can try to think of a way that you could make your creation process just a little bit easier for you. For example, maybe making a template, kind of a your character here kind of base, where you can just use the same pose and just keep drawing characters over it, which a lot of artists do, it's not uncommon, and it also just makes it a little bit more efficient as well. So to summarize everything up, I would just say the main thing is to start small. When I started out, I just had stickers, I just had 2 tins of just various designs, and was it amazing? No, it was kind of lame, but people still bought them. People want to support you, and so they will buy your stuff. I would also say just take a look at what other artist alley vendors sell. Just when you're going around, you can just take a look at the types of things they sell. I also want to say it is okay to reuse designs as well. So if you have a sticker design, you can also turn that into a keychain at the same time. I've done that a lot of times too. I'll have fan art of a certain character and I'll have it as a keychain and a sticker, because sometimes people don't have the money to spend anything on higher priced items. And the other thing I didn't mention was pricing, only because I'm also not an expert on that. I've never been good at pricing my work. All I would say for that is do not underprice your items. Do not sell your stickers for $1 each. Okay, don't do it. Even if you're what if nobody buys it? They will buy it. And you'll figure that out, especially if your stuff is cheaper. And maybe they're more likely to buy it if it's cheaper, but you're still kind of losing, because even though they're buying more, you're still making less, you know what I mean? So I would also just say maybe reference some other artists prices. I would say prices are pretty consistent in an artist alley. I would say keychains are usually between $12 to $15. Stickers are anywhere between like $2 to $4 to $5. It kind of depends. So to wrap that up, I would just say make sure that you're valuing not only your time, but also your creative process as a whole. So once you have identified what you want to sell, then you can move on to figuring out what sorts of events are going to have the consumers that are going to be interested in buying these products. For example, if you were doing fan art, you're probably going to want to aim towards things like anime conventions or comic conventions, just like fan conventions in general, because that's where the people in these fandoms are going to be coming together. If you're doing original content, then you're probably going to want to aim towards more general craft fairs or like art markets. There are a lot of original artists who sell their work at anime conventions as well, and I do know that a lot of like Comic-Con/anime cons do have rules regarding the ratio of fan content to original content. I haven't personally been to any events yet that had any sort of major rules around this, but I don't know. I've seen some videos where people are talking about like the just sheer quantity of like original work compared to fan art in kind of like comic conventions. I also haven't sold at a ton of like art markets or like even craft markets. I've done a couple, but of course like I'm not really aiming towards craft market, but those events will definitely have a different demographic compared to things like anime conventions, of course. No matter what kind of events you want to sell at, you need to research the event specifically. So if there are conventions in your area, research what sorts of people tend to attend these events or how successful the event is, and also like the reputation too. I would say that is kind of an important part to pay attention to, because there are many conventions out there, but not all of them are going to have the demographic that you're marketing towards. Another huge thing to consider when you are looking into different events is, of course, the table cost. Even if an event is super duper popular and has a huge turnout every single year, even if it's kind of iconic, if the tables are $700 something for the weekend, honestly, sometimes we gotta skip, guys. I'm not gonna lie. It's always a risk when you see the table cost, but it is just something to consider. If you think that your average profit at that time is, say, between like a couple hundred to like maybe just $1,000, a table cost that is like $500 is probably not going to benefit you. So just take into consideration how much you can invest as well, because you have to pay for the table. Remember that you have to pay for the table. Don't go broke for artist alley tables, guys. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Even if you're going to make the money back, chances are you're going to make the money back months later. So just think critically. It's okay to start with smaller, like local events. In fact, it's good. We should be supporting local events. But if you want to work your way up to those bigger, kind of more well-known kind of like conventions, baby steps, okay? Baby steps. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, but we're gonna get there slowly. We're gonna take our time, we're gonna grow, and then we're gonna get there. Okay, so now we know what kinds of products we want to sell, and we also know the types of events that we want to sell at. So now we gotta figure out how we're gonna obtain / create / make said products. So when it comes to production, this is going to vary greatly depending on your budget and the resources you have available to you. When it comes to my stickers, I decided to go the, homemade route because I design them on Procreate, and I print them out at home with my printer, and I cut them out at home with my Silhouette Cameo 5. I don't use a Cricut. I don't have any major opinions between the two. This is not a diss against Cricut. I've just never used one personally. The only reason why I decided to go with a Silhouette was because it was on sale, and because I had heard people complaining about issues with calibration and like miscuts with Cricut. However, I would say that I probably deal with the same thing with my Silhouette, like every single time I try to cut stickers, and that might just be a fact of life, and that's okay. And the thing is too, you don't even need a cutting machine to produce your stickers at all. You can hand cut them, and a lot of artists do, because it saves you money. Does it save you time? Probably not at all. But I also don't even know if using a cutting machine saves me time, because half of my production time is spent by me trying to figure out why it's not registering the cut marks. So anyway, but yeah, if you're looking for like a budget-friendly option, honestly, just cut them out by hand. I also use an Epson EcoTank for my printing. When I started out, this was a very ambitious thing because I hadn't even been selling in person at that point. It was mostly just like on Etsy, but I did invest the money into both my printer and my silhouette. But again, I did get both of these things on sale. So that is another tip. If you are looking for hardware or just any kind of like tools to help you with this, look for the sales, please. Don't invest money that you don't have. Shop the sales. It's so worth it. And also probably Marketplace too. You could probably look on Marketplace. I'm sure people are selling them. However, though, let me backtrack completely and say, if you are just starting out, and if I could restart, I would say start by outsourcing your stickers. If you don't want to invest all the money into machinery, which I would encourage you not to because that is a huge risk, I would recommend outsourcing. And if you don't know what outsourcing means, it means you are basically just paying another company or a manufacturer to produce your products for you, and then they're sent to you. So things like Vograce, there's, I think, Sticker Mule, there's like Alibaba, I think is a thing. I have never used it. I've never outsourced my stickers ever, so I am not an expert on that at all. The only thing with outsourcing is that you can't control like quality as well. Like there have been many cases where companies will send you the stickers that you ordered and then say like say the foil is wrong. Maybe you wanted like a specific kind of laminate and they sent you a regular laminate. Typically though, you know, if you contact the companies, they will send you a free replacement and it'll be fine. But that's just something to keep in mind. I kind of mentioned this before, but the main reason I enjoy being able to make my stickers at home is that I have more freedom and like control over what I'm making and how it's being made. I also never mentioned what kind of like vinyl or laminate I use specifically, but okay, I use the Joyza vinyl sticker paper, the premium matte. It's 8.5 by 11, so just standard like printer paper size. It does say it's durable and water resistant. I don't know how true that is. I have always advertised my stickers as waterproof, which I do believe to be true. Because I also laminate them, so I do believe that to be true. For my laminate, I use the Avery self-adhesive laminating sheets. They are 9 inches by 12 inches, which is a little bigger than your standard printer paper size. So I do have to like crop those down either with like a paper cutter or like a scissors. I also have a fancier laminate. It's technically it's supposed to be matte, and I don't know if it's necessarily the right matte texture that I was kind of aiming for. It's more of like a frosted kind of texture, but I don't totally hate it. The matte laminate is by the brand La Llama, and it's their self-adhesive laminating sheets, but it's specifically the matte one. It comes in like a roll, which is kind of inconvenient. With the other sheets, like they're literally just sheets, like paper kind of. And then I could just crop it and then peel it and then like put it on and do it all. But with this one, it curls up because it's in a roll, so it's always rolled. So when it comes to keychains, I actually do outsource them. I use Vograce, not sponsored. There's no reason why I use Vograce over a different company such as like, is it Woocry? Yeah, there's no reason why I use Vograce over the other ones. The only reason is, I think they have pretty good deals. Their minimum order quantity is I think like 1. So, you know, and since I'm ordering a lot of keychains at once now, especially since I have more designs, I tend to get bigger discounts, and their shipping time is pretty quick, so that's nice, especially when I forget and I have 6 weeks before an event and then I'm like, oh shoot, now I gotta order like 100 keychains and I didn't even know. I'm not sure if there's a way to make keychains at home. I'm sure there is if you're making like shrinky dinks. I've done that before when I was like 11, but I think for the most part everybody outsources keychains. That's a big generalization, but from what I'm aware, most people tend to outsource their keychains, whereas with stickers it's kind of like a mixed kind of bag. Now for prints, this was hard for me to figure out at first because I feel like there's never really a lot of info on producing art prints. It can get kind of confusing, but you can have them outsourced online. I've never done that just because it's a little complicated for me, and also a lot of the outsourcing companies are American, and like I said, I'm Canadian. So when it comes to like fees and also shipping and just like, I would say the most efficient plan for producing art prints is to look for local print shops in your area. Most print shops in your area will probably be for like businesses, so things like signage and like posters and advertisements. But these companies can also do like postcards or like regular posters. But even if you just go into these establishments and just like talk to the people who work there, they can probably help you out. But for the company I use, they're just like local. I've always been satisfied with my results. Another thing to consider just with any product is that when you order in bulk, it is going to be less expensive in the long run. Whenever I'm kind of like launching, I guess, like a new design, like I'll only order a small quantity just to see how they do, and if they sell out, then I know to order more next time. But a lot of these companies also charge based on like the material you're using up. So if you order like a really small quantity of a design and it only uses up so much of the material and they have like a bunch left over, you're gonna get charged more because you're like wasting the material. So just something to consider. Even if ordering more looks like a lot and it's like making a dent in your bank account, you probably are saving money, and that's why they give discounts a lot of the time as well. But again, we are not going broke over selling at conventions in 2026 or at the end of 2025 if you have an event coming up. Don't do it. But also know that you will hopefully probably maybe make the money back as well. When it comes to printing at home, I have absolutely no idea how that works. I know that you can do it, but I know that there are like some really huge printers that can print like large scale posters. I know some people who have been able to print like 11 by 17 prints at home. I have absolutely no clue how, and I anticipate that that would be like a huge expense. But if you want to look into that, then I would recommend looking into it, because I'm sure it might save you some time and money, maybe, I don't know. But I think just overall, my main thing is if you're just starting out and you have no clue what you're doing, if this is what you want to do, just outsource, because then at least you can kind of like have a more conservative quantity. And then if you're like, hey, I hate this, or I hate this design, you might just end up hating a design later on down the road. If you have like 1 billion of them, it's like, okay, great, what do I do with this design? But if you order like just a couple, then that is not a huge quantity and they'll probably sell out at some point. Okay, so now we have our products. We know the types of events that we're going to be selling at, but now we need to figure out how we're going to display our products. So when thinking about your display, again, you're going to want to take into consideration all the things from before. So the types of things that you're selling, who your target audience is, and also your branding. Because your display is going to heavily influence how people view not only your work, but also your sort of image as an artist or creator. And this is also going to potentially influence or de-influence them from purchasing from your products. So there are a couple things to think about when trying to figure out your sort of style for your display. There is self-serve, and then there's also whatever the opposite of self-serve is, where like you have your display and your products are display only, and then they tell you which product they want and you grab it for them. As of right now, I'm kind of like a combination between the two. Most of my products are self-serve. The only ones that aren't are my keychains. In addition to that, signage is so important because it needs to let your consumers know a couple of different things. Your prices, any deals or sales, as well as like product specifications, such as if you have like vinyl waterproof stickers or like epoxy layered keychains or something. Signage is also important for sizes. For example, I have a combination of large, medium, and small prints. So my signs let people know the different prices for each size, as well as like each deal that I have for all of the sizes. But when it comes to your signs, make sure they're clear and legible. There are like some marketing tips and tricks out there, like make the price themselves like larger in a different color so it stands out and like captures people's attention. Well, in addition to that, if you don't have a self-serve system, then I would make it very clear on your signs that everything you see is display only. Whether or not people pay attention to that is up to fate. And also, if you do have a display only kind of setup, adding numbers to each of your products is really helpful, just like numbering them off in whatever order, just so that if people don't know the character's name, then they can at least just give you the number. It just helps because then people can just say like, oh, can I get keychain number 2? And then you can grab whatever your second keychain is on your display. This just makes it a little easier for everybody. The other important thing when it comes to like signage is just the fact that like not everybody wants to talk to people all the time. Some people are a little antisocial. I get it, like me too. When you have signs clearly like conveying everything that like the consumer needs to know, then it just makes it a little easier for everybody when they're like browsing through your things, and it just takes away some of the pressure as well. So when it comes to your display style, Pinterest is going to be your best friend, or at least any kind of photo sharing platform. Just seeing the different ways that people are able to display their items, and also like some of the really creative ways that people can display their products. My display has shifted a lot as I've expanded certain things, and I've had to make like different displays for my keychains or just rearrange all my products as a whole. I still have plans to redo like my entire display again, but I need to order more cubes and I simply don't want to right now. And to branch off of that, I'll just kind of talk about some of the aspects of my display that I use. If you're selling artwork, I would say it's going to usually be between either grid panels or storage cubes. I would personally recommend storage cubes over the wire grid panels because the grid ones are heavier because they're metal, whereas the storage cubes are plastic, so it's a little easier to transport between locations. For stickers, I just tend to use like, I think it's technically like a nail polish holder. It has like 5 different tiers to it, and I use 2 of those. Sometimes my stickers, because they're a little larger, they don't have anything to like support them at the back, so they kind of lean. Sometimes they fall over. It's okay. For my mini prints or like my medium-sized prints, I use a bamboo dish rack. These work fine for me. I did find out that there are some that you can get that are like, I think elevated at the back so that you can kind of have like a top-down view of like all of the prints, because when they're flat on the table, it just makes it a little harder to like see them. You kind of have to like lean over and look. For my keychain display, I actually made them myself on Procreate. Like I designed it with the different slots, and I just measured it out to be the same dimensions as the panel, which is I think 11.9 by 11.9 or like 12 by 12 inches, I'm not sure. And then I just printed it out onto sticker paper, and then I put it onto some foam board from like the dollar store, the Dollar Tree, and then I just cut it out. I might redo it. If I do order more panels, I might end up just putting the keychains on the panels themselves, because even though it's like a little more like boring, it doesn't have to be, but in my brain I'm like, it might just kind of boring if I do that. The foam board method, although it's fun to customize it, sometimes it's not as durable as I'd like. Another little thing is I use Velcro to attach everything to my display. I was using magnets, but I found that sometimes that just wouldn't stick as well. But now I'm kind of thinking, and I'm like, maybe that's just me. I wouldn't ever recommend using like tape, like to attach like the main things to your display. I use tape to like attach like the hooks for keychains, but I don't use tape to attach like the actual board or the actual like prints to my display, because tape is not, and it probably will fall down at least like 100 times while you're at an event, and it's really annoying to have to fix all the time. So I would definitely recommend like adhesive Velcro to attach to your panels. It's durable and it sticks pretty well, and you can use it over and over and over again. So another thing I forgot to mention, but your table display should be cohesive to whatever you want your personal brand as an artist to be. I have been in the process of changing my personal branding for like a while, but I'm just not very good at coming up with anything like that. So it's kind of been a battle, but it's okay. But I would definitely encourage you also to get really creative with your display style and like your branding, because this has kind of been talked about, but like there is kind of like an onslaught of like pink pastel displays in Artist Alley, and like they look good. This is not if you are like a pastel pink display person, that is completely fine, and like they work fine. I will say though that like unique displays definitely get a little bit more attention just because they stand out so much. But make sure that the style that you're going for reflects your artwork and just kind of like your own personal vibe as an artist, because that is like the very first thing that people are going to see when they're looking at your artwork. So overall, I would say that those are kind of the main 4 things that you want to consider when you are thinking about starting out. And I know it can be very, very overwhelming because that was kind of a lot, but it will benefit you greatly in the end if you really take the time to kind of sit down and think about these things. And a lot of these things will change over time. Like what you start out with is probably not going to be what you stick with, so it is okay to change your mind as well. I do have some miscellaneous tips that I'm gonna just kind of shoot off right now because I didn't really know where to fit them. Number 1, have a website of some kind. It doesn't have to be super professional, just make sure it's organized and it has your personal artwork as well as your products that you are going to be selling. And also include a picture of your table display. Always take pictures of your table display. This is going to be very important because when you are applying for events, they're going to probably usually always ask you for a link to a website. Sometimes they want like an official kind of like website. Sometimes they're okay with just like social media pages or like even like an Etsy. Sometimes they may just ask like for a link to a product of any kind. Sometimes they accept Google Drives, not always, but I would just always recommend to have some form of website. I use Card. I need to upgrade because I can't fit as many elements on the page as I need to. Yeah, just have some sort of website that isn't specifically social media, because having a website is also going to be super important, so people can find you after events if they're really interested in your work. Which leads me into my second tip. So tip number 2 is that you should always have some form of business cards. When I started out, I didn't have professional business cards, but what I did was I went on Procreate and I designed my own, and then I just printed them out on like cardstock, and that is what I used. It always surprises me, like the sheer quantity of business cards that I go through at events, because people just love to like collect them, I guess. People just love to like pick them up. Like I go through so many. In addition to business cards, make sure it has your business name. Make sure you either have a URL for like your website, or list your socials on the business card, or even, I know kind of like a common thing now is to have a QR code for people to scan, and that can link back to either your personal website, can link back to your Instagram. I would recommend making a link tree as well to have all of your like master links that you need. So my QR code specifically links to my link tree, so then people can find all of my info, like my shop, my Instagram, my card, website, commission info, etc., etc. These other 2 tips are kind of random, but I would also suggest just like joining Discord servers to find local events. Like there is the Artist Alley Network Discord. If you go to their card, they have like all of the info, because you do have to like fill out a Google form to apply. But that is really helpful because they post a lot of info just about like applications, events, etc. There's not a whole lot for like Canadian events, but it's okay. There is a little community, it's great. Another kind of random one, always practice your table display before an event. Don't leave it to the last minute. It's kind of annoying to have to set it up like in your home, but it will be beneficial, so that way you're not scrambling the day of an event. Another thing is always talk to artists at events. It's good to make connections, not even just in like a networking sense, but it's fun to like talk to them. And also like ask advice. Don't be shy to like ask them advice. People have asked me just like miscellaneous questions at events, and I'm always down to answer. So if you have any questions about someone's like display or like how they make something, just don't be shy. Just ask them. I'm sure they're more than willing to give you an answer. And the other thing that I didn't mention at all was issues about like copyright. That's kind of a very complicated thing to talk about. TLDR though, basically just don't put any official logos on any of your products. Don't do it. Just make something up. Just make up a fake logo. It will save your ass. I have never ever had any issues with people confronting me at events. I forget what they're called, but the people who go to like the major kind of conventions, like work for a company and kind of like scout out fan art, I guess, for different series, and will like specifically kind of issue a takedown notice and be like, you can't do that. I've never had that issue, but I also don't do any like major events. I don't know if anybody at any of the major Canadian conventions has had that issue. Maybe that's more of like an American thing, but just don't put any official logos on your stuff. Just don't do it. There are a lot of companies that are okay with fan art, such as the like Hoyoverse series, so Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, etc. That is why there is so much of it in artist alleys. Fun fact. I know there are a couple companies that are like hard stop, don't do it. Like I think Sanrio is one of them. Disney is another one, which is interesting because I see so much Sanrio, not as much Disney, but there are some events where I've seen like a good amount of Disney stuff, and I always wonder how they do it. I know Larian, or just whoever owns Baldur's Gate, I don't think Larian owns it, whoever owns Baldur's Gate 3 also says no fan art. I've had Mattel on me before for my Monster Girl fan art, if you will. Just be careful, especially when you're listing stuff online. Don't ever put any official names either in your descriptions, your titles, on the product itself. Just don't do it. I'm not telling you how to necessarily avoid copyright, but what I will say is there are synonyms to describe what you want to describe, so maybe try to utilize those. Yeah, basically just stay safe, stay out of legal issues, and we'll all be merry and bright, I think. With that though, I think that sort of wraps up everything that I wanted to say on the topic of selling in artist alleys. If you made it this far, thank you, and I hope that my tips and advice were somewhat helpful. If there's anything that you are still wondering about, feel free to comment down below and I can try my best to answer any questions that you may have. I'm still a beginner, of course, like it's only been a year and I haven't done that many, I guess, sort of like large scale conventions yet, but they're super fun every time I do. So here's to hoping that we do more in 2026, everybody. That'd be so fun. If anybody wants any further details on like anything specific, I again can answer questions, or I can maybe make a larger video. I do kind of have like a little like quote unquote studio vlog on my channel. It's not very good, but you can watch it if you'd like. Yeah, if anybody wants like a more detailed video about like my process, then I can also make that as well. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one, whenever the next one comes out. I also never mentioned it, but the speed paint in the background was just a keychain I was designing of my OC, because every time I order my keychains, I have to give myself a little treat or else I will go insane over the cost of it all. Yeah, but thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye!